Hello and welcome to the Gale Hill Radio Hour. I'm your host, Kate Jones, having a conversation with John Perry, co-author of a charming book for cat lovers of all ages. John, thank you for being on the show today.
Happy to be here.
I am so glad you're here because I'm very fond of the Cat That Wouldn't Purr. I also like its mission, which always has been to raise money in support of animal welfare. In this episode, we'll talk about the real cat on which the story is based and how long it took, 30 years, for this labor of love to come to fruition. I should first mention that this slim, beautifully designed softcover can be as difficult to track down as a stray cat. There are about 75 copies still available from its first and only printing, and we'll tell you later in the show how to get one of them. As an aside, I admit that I'm making it my personal mission to see if we can generate enough demand for the Cat That Wouldn't Purr to extend its life. 9 printings, 9 lives. That would be nice. And all proceeds go to a good cause. So, John, please tell the story of Talker, the star of your book.
Well, let's start off by saying that Talker was a real cat, and the whole story, The Cat That Wouldn't Purr, is a true story, or at least true-based. Talker was just a stray cat that wandered into our lives. We had other cats, and he was auditioning to try and become a permanent resident. And then one day, on a Sunday morning, he came in and was like crying and looked at him and I said, "Oh, something's wrong." So we made a phone call and went out to the veterinarian in Stowe. And Sunday morning, of course, it's an emergency, right? So there goes the first $100 for the guy to show up.
Of course, that's the way things go.
Sure. And he said his jaw's broken. Somebody had kicked him. And the street we live on is a street where you can hear people 2 o'clock in the morning coming from the bars and stuff like that. So it was possible that he was kicked pretty hard.
My goodness.
And so they said, we can wire his jaw back. So I even helped the doctor down in the operating room. And we did. We wired his jaw back together. I took him home. He was in pain. We had some rum sauce that we had left over from Thanksgiving, put it down in a can lid, and he started licking it. And I guess he got a little tipsy or whatever, but anyway, he went to sleep. And he was there for 3 weeks before he could eat solid food again.
So he got pretty high every day.
Yeah, and well, I didn't give him the wrong sauce every day.
Oh, okay.
The first couple of days. And when he would eat, he would make noises. I think it was because of maybe the pain of the jaw. He would sound something like this. And we liked it. We said, he talks so much, we'll just call him Talker. And that became his name. And he was in our life for probably 12 or 13 years for that. We just loved him. He also had a squinty eye, very like Popeye, that had been affected by the kick. And so he became one of our cats. And I was telling the story on a party that we held, and an old friend of mine, Paige Stevens from Cleveland, said, "I like that story. I'm going to go home and try and put it to rhyme." And he did just that.
And he was a writer or a poet or what?
Well, he's a cultural anthropologist. And on the XY axis, X being crazy and Y being normal, he was right at that point.
Okay.
He had a little bit of both.
And that's why you liked him. That's why you were friends.
Wonderful guy. And I read how he did it, the verse, and I said, it's not bad. And so made a couple of changes, and I went and met with Chuck Ayers, who was the editorial cartoonist for the Beacon Journal at the time. And I convinced Chuck to take a stab at drawing some sketches to make a book.
Okay.
And Chuck did it, and the sketches were very good. And so we sent the copy and the sketches off to New York. And after about 5 polite rejection letters, I thought, well, I don't think this is going to make it there. So I put everything in a box and put it in my closet and forgot about it for 30 years.
Wow, that is quite a story. And these were the illustrations that Chuck drew, those sketches, were black and white. They were simple
They were
sketches.
just pencil sketches, on.
He's a good illustrator.
Oh, he's a good illustrator.
Wow.
So after 30 years, somebody that you used to work with, John Schombeck, who published Northern Ohio Life magazine at the time.
Yes.
He and I were having coffee one day, and he said, publishing has changed a lot. And he said, I'm doing books now. Not big runs, but books. And I said,
So
"You
when
are?"
someone has a book, for instance, that maybe wouldn't have wide appeal, or that person just wants to do a few copies,
Right. Yeah,
then they'll do
self-publishing
that.
type of thing.
Right.
Right. And so I went home and went through the closet and found the old box and opened it up. And here was all of this. I took it to John. I said, well, what do you think? And he looked at the sketches and the copy, and he said, I think we can work with this. So he took it to Ben Small, who was his colorist, I think, at the
His
time.
graphic designer. He
Graphic
designed
design, okay.
all of Northern Ohio Live and also the orchestra programs, and just all those projects.
And I thought we would have to go back to Chuck Ayers and have him redo things. And Ben looked at it and said, no, I can work with this. This
Yes.
is good enough.
And he's a good artist.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So there were just, I think, 2 little changes that I had Chuck make. He had made the veterinarian a me.
Okay.
Okay, old man with a mustache and so on. And I wanted a woman veterinarian, so he changed that. And the rest is history. I mean, we published it, and it goes for animal welfare organizations, the proceeds, to try and help them.
So for a long time, you really tried to get animal welfare organizations interested in them.
Yeah, and it was. I was surprised, but I'm not now, because animal welfare organizations, generally speaking, are day-to-day survival. So they have kind of peasant concepts in them. One is that they're so intent on surviving the next week, they don't have time to fiddle around with marketing and publications
Right.
and things like that. So
Survival mode
I didn't
versus
go
creative.
anywhere with it. And I was disappointed because I thought, well, they could make some money out of it. A few $1,000s or whatever might help. So I basically gave up and went to the Portage Foundation and said, okay, here's all my books on your website. If you just will create Talkers Fund there. And if anybody wants to come and make a donation, they can get a book.
Okay. And all the proceeds went to organizations.
Well, now the proceeds go into Talkers Fund, and then Talkers Fund makes charitable donations
Right.
out to the organization.
Right. Okay. Well, I do want to say that Live Publishing did a really, really nice job
Oh,
on
they
the
did.
book.
Yeah.
The front and back covers have such a soft feel, and it's filled with these fun and fitting illustrations. I especially like Talker's expressions throughout the book. They're really classic and good. So the book was published in 2014.
Right.
And you had created a Facebook page, which hasn't been updated lately. Would you tell why?
Yeah. Paige died.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so
The co-author,
sorry.
Paige Stevens, passed away, and that was I reached kind of the end of the rope on the thing with the organizations not that interested, the website, and then Paige dying. I just, but
Sort of the end of the project
yeah.
for you.
But it's still a good book, and your interest in it spurs me to become interested again.
Yes.
As well. So
Well, Jeff Ritter, who works for Live Publishing, gave me a copy now it's been a few years, probably, just a handful of years. And I have a lot of books. I took to it immediately. I really loved it. And but of course things get buried and, you have stuff going on and everything. But I always meant to reach out to the authors. And then when I finally had some time, after I retired from Cleveland Clinic, had a little bit more time in my life, I realized that Paige had passed away in 2018, in May of that year, but I wanted to get a hold of you, and it took me a while to get around to asking the question about how to do that, and then finally getting your contact information. So it's been a journey for me too.
Oh, of course, yeah. And the book is it's kind of a Christmas-oriented book, so it would really make a wonderful stocking stuffer for grandmas and aunts and uncles to, to
any
send for
cat lover.
Yeah.
And to read it to a child, it would be great to do that, and the illustrations, and it's just really a fun book. And it comes across to me as a real tribute to your friend.
Yeah. He was a cultural anthropologist. He had his PhD. Very intelligent man, but never published. And then it was interesting that we finally got this one published with his name on it.
Yeah.
And so he does go down in history as a published author.
Oh, that is sweet. Yeah. And you had been friends for a really long time, right?
Oh, yes. Golfing buddies and just crazy in the 60s and 70s. I mean, it was...
Well...
yeah.
As so many of us were.
He was a crazy Scotsman.
Oh, really? Oh, so just give us a one little tidbit about his craziness.
Well, we would go out and play golf, and he was he could be very loud when he wanted to be, and he loved to laugh, and his laugh was just, you could hear it all over the place. So a round of golf, we had fun, but there were a number of people that were very upset with us simply because of the noise level.
Oh, yeah. Well, it is golf when people speak in hushed tones.
That's correct.
But,
not the two of us.
I know. I think a good booming laugh is appropriate now and then. Yeah. Maybe not on the golf course, but I don't know. I'm not on the golf course very often.
Well, we were equally bad golfers as well.
Okay. So you have to have some fun.
Yeah.
So would you describe your wife, Mary, and yourself as cat people, or in general as animal lovers?
No, I think we're animal lovers first. But when I married her, she had cats and I had cats. So it became a merger in that respect.
Which can be difficult sometimes, the merging of cats.
But we both believe that in the evolution of life on Earth, man was the accident, and that the animals were perfect.
Yeah.
And remain so.
Well, that's what I actually saw a little cartoon one time, and it was there were two lines trying to get into heaven, and the animals, cats and dogs and all the rest, just waltz right in. It was open gate, but the humans had to check in and see if they qualified.
Animals are animals. They do what their instincts are. The fact that they love people, especially dogs, I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe they see something in us we can't see in ourselves.
They serve our highest selves. I think for most of us, except for people who abuse animals, but for most of us, we do have a soft spot for animals. So.
And of course, they can hear a can opener. Away.
They like their food too, for sure. Well, what would you say that Talker brought to your lives?
Well, I mean, just the joy of seeing a cat that has undergone such a terrible punishment as being kicked in the head, come back and still learn to love people.
Oh.
It was amazing. And he was. He would crawl in Mary's arms when she was in a rocking chair and fall asleep. He was just fun. He was a great guy to be with and to have around the house. And we've had so many cats, so many wonderful stories in our lives that, but this one was special.
Yes.
And the fact that we were able to save his life, I think was something important to us as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. So you had cats after Talker.
We have 15 right now.
15?
Most
That's a
of them-
community of cats.
Yeah, most of them were feral cats that then became pregnant in the neighborhood or whatever,
Okay.
and found us because we do put out food.
Yes.
But we had them trapped and neutered and spayed, except for one that we haven't been able to catch yet,
Okay.
and she is pregnant.
Oh, my. So there will be more.
There will be more coming.
Do they stay out in a barn or a garage or
They
where?
stay all over, but we did build a big housing unit on our deck, around 8 feet by 8 feet by 7 feet tall,
Oh, my gosh.
and it has all different levels of where they can go in and sleep, and it's warmed.
Oh, wow. So this is is it an actual structure out of wood or?
I built it,
You built it. Wow.
and we put heaters in there, and they survive the winter quite well.
Oh, my goodness. You really are animal lovers, you and Mary.
Yeah, crazy.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think it really is. So, in the best possible world,
Yeah.
what would you like to see happen with this sweet story of Talker?
I think I need to have lunch with John Schombeck again, and talk to him about putting, for one thing, the indicia on the back of it so that libraries would accept it.
Okay.
Right now, it wouldn't be accepted by any library because it doesn't have that.
Right.
So
And what is that you're
that's
talking
the
about?
little sticker with the little bars on it that says what it is and how much it is or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
It's not the same as the, what is it, ISBN number or whatever that is. Not the same as that?
I think that's it.
It is.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so that's registered with the Library
right.
of Congress.
That's what it is.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And so they just don't accept things that aren't registered with the library.
Ah, okay. It's
So that would be one change.
I don't think it's, for my first job with how I got to Cleveland Clinic, because I've always been in communications. My first job was with a short-lived enterprise within Cleveland Clinic called Cleveland Clinic Press. And I worked there for 3 years before it went by the wayside. And I went to Cleveland Clinic in 2005. This was not a good time for publishing. Book publishers had no idea what to do in the climate that that existed then. So, but we had a lot of fun. We produced a lot of books. They were all on health for the general public, and so, as I recall, the process wasn't that difficult to get to register with the
Right.
Library of Congress. So. I'm sure you can do it. And that I would promote this new edition of the cat that wouldn't purr.
Yeah.
He could purr, he wouldn't purr.
And we'll just see where it goes.
Yes.
From there.
I think that would be wonderful. So how do people get a copy of The Cat That Wouldn't Purr?
Well, they go to the Portage Foundation, portagefoundation.org
Okay.
website. And then where it says donor funds, you would click on that button and a list of funds would come up. And then one of those funds, it says Talkers Fund.
Okay.
And you click on that, and then you can fill out the information and make a donation, I think of $20, and a book will be mailed to you.
Wonderful. Okay, that's simple enough. Is there anything else, John, that you'd like to add?
Actually, no. It's been enjoyable to, I dug out a copy of the book and looked at it again before this podcast, and it is nice. It's nice. It would make a wonderful, wonderful gift.
That's the whole thing. When Jeff handed it to me, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. And then I read it, and it was terrific. It's just, as I said at the very beginning, it's a charming book.
Yeah.
And thank you for doing it.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is Kate Jones with the Gale Hill Radio Hour. Until next time, thanks for joining us. Please remember to subscribe, like, and share. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you.